All right, guys, welcome back again to another video. This is another subscriber shout out to Unbiasview at Unbiasview. That's his profile name. And again, this is not a shout out that I'm giving because somebody was giving me flowers or adorning me with praise and flattery. This is a shout out because this person was very articulate in the way they expressed themselves. Number one. Number two, it forced me to think. Anyone that critiques me to a degree where I'm forced to think, I'm going to give you a shout out because I want to be better as a person that gives my opinions. It doesn't mean that I want to be right. I want to be fair. I want to have information behind my analysis and my opinions. And I just want to improve. And the only way to improve is to listen to your critics. Okay? So, I'm going to read what Unbiasview said. This was about 2 days ago, okay? So follow me here. He says, with so many channels and informative posts out there, your takes on Coach Prime is bizarre. Okay, I watched a few videos and you mainly subscribe to the negative narrative surrounding the Colorado Buffs. Yes, it's your opinion, but where's the true objectivity? You're okay in the use of slandering someone's name because of their perceived personal status in life. Why can't selling your program to prospective students be enough? Unless your program is not as it may seem. There are situations where you can be sued for slander. So why would you advocate for such a practice? I think it was On3 or 247 Sports that asks students things they heard on recruiting trails. Not a whole lot about the other coaches, but what they could have if they attended. Let's be real. Former players do want to coach, but many left school early without their degree. And if Coach Prime becomes successful, he would have provided a blueprint on getting through the door. The former college players who didn't make it had to become GAs, graduate assistants, and work their way up. They are desperately trying to keep him from getting good players at any cost. And when he says they, he means the other coaches, because this is a video that I made, and it talked about how Coach Prime wasn't very happy. He wasn't very fond of other coaches using his name, in trying to recruit high school players. And they could be saying a lot of things. They could be saying that Coach Prime's not going to be there. They could be saying, don't go to that program. It's nothing but it's clickbait. They do things for clicks. They don't have any substances. It's kind of the same thing that the Oregon coach said earlier in the past football season at halftime to his players when they played Colorado. So I don't know what the coaches were saying, but that's what Unbiasview is referring to when he says they're desperately trying to keep him from getting good players at any cost. So shameful is what it is. College has no parity. Same top 10 schools hurting all the top talent to SEC and Big Ten. He has a point there. It's hard, but I'm with the exodus, with Saban leaving, with many of the Alabama kids kind of transferring. I think parity is getting better. It's going to take time though. But for a long time, it's the same top 10 schools. You may get an outlier that comes in that has some sort of Cinderella season. Like a couple of years ago, we had like Cincinnati who went on a wild run. You always get that one or two teams that kind of sneak in, but for the most part, it's the same teams that are dominant, the same conferences. So he has a point there. Okay, then he wasn't done there. He continued. Unbiasview continued. He said here. Okay, he continued. He said, my apologies for getting long-winded, but I had hopes you were going to branch out on other topics, but you're only fixated on what the Sanders family is doing. First game is like 8 months away, and people are in a uproar over a meeting during off-season strength and conditioning. With this post of you freezing your child, you could open yourself up to a group of parents citing neglect. And let me give you guys some context to that. If you didn't, on my video, I took my son is in a t-ball league and my daughter plays soccer, right? And we put him in the winter leagues. And I knew getting up that morning that it was going to be in the mid-30s. And to make a long story short, I wasn't for it. I did not want to go out there. But we all know as men, when you're in a relationship, you got to work through things and make compromises. But I knew that it was not a good idea. But my wife told me, she says, hey, if it's too cold, y'all can leave. And sometimes kids, you got to protect them from themselves. They may get out there and not want to go, but sometimes if you know what's better for them, you just extract your kid from that environment and say, no, it's too cold, we got to go back home. But to make a long story short, we go out there, take my son out there for his t-ball game, t-ball practicing game. There were other kids out there too. It wasn't only my son. It was a slew of kids out there. And it's cold. I mean, my nose is flushing out running, and my son's doing the same thing. My son is stiff like a statue. He's like, oh, I can't move. So I said, this is not going to work. So I took a picture of my son. I sent it to my wife. I said, babe, he's freezing. He's unwilling to do anything. He's not warming up with the team. He's not doing his jumping jacks. He's not running. He's not doing anything. And then she's like, okay, y'all could go home. It's not that I was seeking her permission. I just wanted her to know the conditions. I was going to take him home regardless. Whether she said go home or not, I was going to take him out of there anyway. Because I had to ask him. I asked him. I said, hey, so you say it's too cold? He says, yes. I said, you want to go home? He says, yes. He usually doesn't want to go home. Usually when he's out there on the field or when he's outdoors, if you say go home, he's like, I don't want to go home. But the fact that he would say, yes, I want to go home, I took him out of there. So that's what Unbiased View is referring to when he says neglect of freezing your child in the cold. That's what he's referring to. But he's making a point. But I'll read on and I'll clear up the context later. He also says, with this post of you freezing your child, you could open yourself up to a group of parents citing neglect. And by your admission of the Sanders letting people in, because on my video, I talked about how, with the well-off media stuff and the social media access that Coach Prime allows for his football team, I talked about how he should not be allowing people to come into his football program, like to keep things in-house. So Unbiased is kind of making a comparison there. He's not saying that I froze my child. He's just saying, look, you're talking about Prime, but yet in a way you're letting people into your life, and you can have some parents who want to cite you for neglecting your child in the cold. He's not saying that I was. He's making a point to say, be careful of what you're telling another man not to do while you yourself are discussing Prime, yet exposing what you're doing inside your house about your kids. So that was clever on his part, Unbiased, to call that out. And he said here that, let me keep reading here. He says, and by your admission of the Sanders letting people in, well, look in your rear view. And he says, look in your rear view because when I was doing my video, I had my phone here and you can see my son. You see, I have two car seats back there. I have one for my daughter and one for my son. So back there, my son was sitting like right behind me right there. Okay. And so he's saying, hey, look in your rear view. So some things don't need to be discussed for the sake of discussion. So he made a good point. So I responded to him, and that was good constructive critique. And I read it all, and I absorbed it. I took it. And I think that for him to write that much, it lets me know he was passionate about the way he felt. And I just felt that it was only fair. I could have dismissed it. A lot of people do that. A lot of people look at their channels. They hear somebody say something that doesn't quite mesh with the way they think, and they just dismiss it, or they leave like a short message, well, don't listen to my channel. No, I don't. It's not that I want people to listen to my channel, like, oh, please listen to my channel. But I'm doing this for two reasons. Again, like I said on my other video, I'm doing this to be better as a person who gives critique, and to be balanced and to be fair. And I'm also doing this to improve as a person, because you can only improve by taking in both sides. I get great messages all the time about positivity, about, hey, man, I like your channel, I like your take, I like da-da-da-da. I love that. But I think that there are times where you need to hear opposing views and you grow from that. So my response to Unbiased View is that I thanked him for contributing to the channel. I told him that I do speak on other topics about nutrition, weather modification systems, and other trendy topics as well. Because he said on his post, he says, I'm always talking about Prime, in a negative light, but I talk about other things too. But in regards to, in his defense, he is right. Most of the times that I talk about Colorado football, I'm not saying that I'm going out there to be negative. I'm just really speaking how I feel. But I also think that with my ability to critique certain things on the negative side, I think sometimes I need to also look at some of the things that are good, that are happening inside the program, and elaborate on that as well. It's only fair that I do that, because it's not all bad. It's not 100% negative at Colorado. There are some good going on. And I think that I owe it to the listeners, and I owe it to myself too, to be balanced. I don't want to be overly negative either. And I'm glad that this Unbiased View caught me at that. He also says here that, this is my response. I say here that I speak to topics about nutrition, weather modification systems, and other trendy topics as well. I said that Colorado at the moment is just a topic that I'm interested in. In terms of neglect, I don't think so. And I'm just referring to his message about neglect. If anyone wants to cite me for that, I put, there's no sign of me neglecting my son in this video, not letting people into my life for brand building or for social promotion. So there's a difference. Like, that was just incidental, but I get what Unbiased View is talking about. Like, I'm driving, discussing Prime about how he's letting people into his football program, or letting people into his life in terms of what his son's doing and what the football people are doing. But then Unbiased View is saying, well, yeah, but you're talking about Prime, but yet you're letting people into your house, preferably, no, symbolically, not my house, but in my car. So in a way, he's making a point there, but I was coming back saying, well, I'm not doing it for brand building. Like, Coach Prime is doing it to build a brand, to promote his program. I'm not having my kid in the back seat or talking about my kid being out in the cold trying to play a t-ball game in a way to build my brand. I was just being open with my fans. Not fans, not that you guys are fans, but my subscribers or the people who view the video. Just being a little bit transparent. And I guess Coach Prime is being transparent as well to a degree, but those videos are curated as well. They're not like raw footage. So don't think that everything you get on Well Off Media or any documentary that you get is doctored and curated in a way that sends a certain message. So all documentaries are not made equally. A documentary is what it is. It documents what they want to document, to slant a message, to send a message to you. It's a narrative that's being built. So when I made this response, I was simply telling Unbiased View that I'm not letting people into my life to build a brand or social promotion. I took him out of the cold, and I told him I appreciate your feedback, and you never had, and I told him you never have to apologize for expressing yourself, no matter if you think it's a long or a short message. Because remember, when I was reading his comment, he said, I apologize for being long-winded. But no, I read it all. I don't think he was being long-winded. I think he had the right to express himself. And I took what he said. And yeah. So that's a shout out to Unbiased View. And we also went back and forth with other things as well, but it was kind of off topic after that. But yeah, man, that's a shout out that I have to give. So I gave one to Phyllis at Phyllis Taylor, and I'm giving one to Unbiased View. Thank you guys for contributing to the channel. Thank you guys for pushing me to be better and pushing me to watch how I relay a message. Because even though something happens that may be negative, there's a way that I can address it. And there's one more guy too that I'm going to give a shout out to. I'm going to do another video on that. So I'm going to have actually 3 videos uploaded about shout outs. One to Phyllis Taylor, one to Unbiased View, and there's one for another guy. He made some strong points, man. But I don't agree with them, but I want to read them to you guys to hear what he had to say. So stand by for that. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Leave a comment and tell me what you guys think. All right. Bye.